If you've ever felt like you've missed the path to a fulfilling life, you are not alone. The good news is, by the time you finish this video, you'll know how you can help your child find theirs while rediscovering yours along the way. Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm the doctor who will tell you the truth, and I'm the mom friend who will say it with love so that it goes down a little bit easier. And today I'm really excited to talk about this topic because whether you do it subconsciously or not, you, like me, like all the rest of us, have asked the question, why am I here? And I remember the time that it really hit home for me that this is a question that we're asking at a variety of ages. It's not just the question that somebody asks when they're in their 20s or in their 30s. It's a question that children are asking. And I know this because I wrote about it in one of my books, how my daughter came to me when she was 8 years old, and her question was, how what are you good at and how did you know when you were good at it? And I paused before answering because I realized the question behind the question. She was really asking, like, why am I here? What is it that I do, or what is it that I have, or what is it that I have to show for why I'm here? And it was wild to me that an 8 year old was thinking about that. And so it's no wonder that you're the age that you are and you're asking the same thing. And so I make this video because your child may be wondering about that. And part of the blessed privilege of having a family and you being the mom in that family is the opportunity that you have to speak into your child's life and their path in life, the things that you see that give clues as to why they are here, what they are equipped with, and what they can do with what they have, and where they should go with what they have. Because in an earlier videos, I talked about capability, which is how a family, the parents, and even the siblings can point out what the children in the family seem to be good at. And the point of pointing it out is because you and your husband or the father of your child are the ones who are invested in this child and are spending a lot of time with this child. And children don't come knowing what they can do. And so I talked about how it's important that parents in particular, grandparents can get in on it, siblings can get in on it, sort of pointing out, hey, you're good at, and like positive things, Hey, I noticed that you're good at this. I noticed that you're good at that. So that the child understands that what they're doing is not something that everybody can do, and that they seem to have a knack for it or they seem to be drawn to it. And so they know that that's probably something I should lean into or maybe do more of and see where it takes me. But today we're talking about more than that. We're talking about how you take that information about abilities and you combine it with two other aspects of what make us who we are and the clues that we can find there to now have a bigger picture of where your child can go with what they have been born with. And so if you understand and know that we are three parts, yes, we have a body, but we also have a soul and we have a spirit, and we take in information and process differently in all of those parts. And so the capability part that I was talking about in another video is where you get to understand your natural abilities, like what your child is naturally gifted to do with their bodies. So it's things like they have, a way with numbers. There are some children who can pick up, they're just great with numbers. They can do all type of mental math processes in their head. They can remember numbers in, to extraordinary degrees. That is an ability that they have that will serve them well in accounting or name any other field that involves having to work with numbers on a regular basis and in depth. It can also be things like the gift of singing, the athletic ability, gifts in the arts. I have a son who sings and who picks up instruments easily and can teach himself. I have another son who can draw. I have a daughter who makes up games. She's just inventive in that way. And they all have athletic ability to some degree. And so when we talk about abilities, it's okay. Maybe you have ability that gets you on the high school basketball team, but do you have ability that gets you into the NBA? right? So there's levels to everything. But when you see that natural ability, you know, okay, that's something to keep an eye on. That's something that we want to expose them to more and have maybe more specific training or specific or more reps at that activity to develop that ability, because who knows where that ability can take them, right? That might be the course that they go because they have this natural ability. And so there's the body and what you are gifted to do with your body. You were born with it. But there's also the soul. The soul is where we talk about your mind, your will, your emotions, right? That's all in the soul. And part of the soul is something called temperaments. If you never heard of it before, let me walk you through it. I love this topic. Temperaments is different than character and different than personality. You've probably heard a lot about personality tests, Myers Briggs, Strength Finders. There's just a lot of tests that are out there, but the OG, the one that's been around a long time, is the discussion of temperament, and it's a theory, but it's a theory that is well versed and has existed for centuries. It has been studied extensively, and it's rooted in science as well. And so, I love it. But physicians of old had talked about temperaments, and what they are the inherited traits, like in your DNA, that you inherit from your parents and grandparents. It's a way of being that affects your behavior subconsciously. So the importance of temperaments is that you can't turn it off or on any more than you can turn off your eye color, or any more than you can stop being able to sing. It's like you were born with it. This is how you are. Temperaments can be modified, and that's how character is different from temperaments. Your character is how your temperament is modified. And so, if temperamentally you have a choleric temperament where you can come across very brash, very harsh, very, uh, let's get this done, get it done now, execute, execute, execute. Character, which is modified temperament, as a child, when you're that harsh, your parents are teaching you, okay, that's not the best way to say that. If you would like this, you would say it this way, and you add a please on there. And then when you get it, add the thank you. So that's discipline modifying temperament, but that person will always be a hard charger. That person will always be direct in how they speak. That will never go away, but their experiences in life, whether it be through discipline at home, whether it be things that they learn, how they're educated, inform them to, okay, let me pull back on this here and there, but it never gets them to just not be that way anymore, because they were born that way and they're born that way for a reason. That's different than personality. Personality is sort of the mask that we put on to be appealing to other people, to come across a certain way to other people. It sounds shallow, but it's just sort of necessary to a degree. But if you had to think of them in pictures to understand the difference, I would say temperament is like, if you think of it as, think of these things as water, if we use a water analogy, temperament is like water coming straight from the spring, straight from the mountain caps, fresh water, pure water. This is just how the water is naturally, as opposed to character, which is like when you bring the water into a plant and process it in any degree, you're modifying it in some way. Okay, there you can alkalinize the water. That's like character. It's modifying the temperament. It's still water, but it's been modified in some way. As opposed to personality, which is when you put that water in a bottle and you put a label on it. All these water companies have different labels on them, different designs, different wording, all of it designed to appeal to you so that you'll pick up that bottle of water and purchase it. Different people will be drawn to different labels, but it's still water. It's still refreshing. It still has all the properties that water has, but it has been modified a bit, and it's been packaged in a way that appeals to the person who wants to purchase it. So now that we understand what temperament is as opposed to character and personality, let's get into what the temperaments are, because that is who everyone really is. They're typically a combination of two temperaments, but that's who you really are. And it's working behind the scenes to determine how you show up, how you just naturally are who you are, different to other people. Um, to that point, two people can have the same type of temperaments, but they won't express them the same because they're different genders. We are all unique, right? And so we don't express them the same, even though we can recognize each other having similar temperaments or temperament blends. So I'm talking about four of them. I have my notes, I'll be referring to them. So the sanguine is someone who's warm, who has a bubbly enthusiasm that prioritizes connecting with people over carrying out protocol. So they recognize that there's a way to do things and this would be the time to do that, but at the end of the day, they want to connect with people. And so if they have to ignore protocol because they want to have this conversation, then that's what they want to do because they love people, okay? These are one of the extroverts everybody talks about. They love people and they love a good time. And they love to talk. They love to talk and they'll tell you their business. They just love to talk. And these are the people who can sell you anything because they're very personable. And they are chatting you up about who you are and they're getting to know you. They can sell you anything. And they're fun to be around most of the time. Then there's the choleric. The choleric is also high energy. They also come under the category of an extrovert. But they have this energy because they're trying to get things done. They're all about productivity. These people tend to be visionaries. If they can imagine it, they are going to make it happen. And they leave the details of how to make it happen to other people. They're not detail people, they're big picture people. They are, I can see it, let's go for it, we'll figure out the details later. And so it's their charm that gets people to rally around them and to get in on the vision, even if they don't see it as clearly as that person. They are so drawn to how that choleric can really see it that they want to be a part of it. And so, therefore, cholerics are the poster child for entrepreneurship. They are the ones who are going to be loving to start a company and to get people to rally around to be a part of that company. They'll probably have several companies because they need to stay interested, but entrepreneurship is their thing. The melancholy is your analytical person. They have high intellect, typically, and they are lovers of puzzles. People who are puzzles, things who are puzzles, they don't meet a puzzle they don't want to solve, and they will solve the puzzle. When it comes to friends, they don't have a whole lot, but the ones that they have, they are very loyal to. And when you consider the fact also that they can be quite sensitive and self sacrificial, it makes sense that they are drawn to the arts. They're also drawn to medicine. And so you probably can guess by now at least one of my temperaments. The last one is the phlegmatic. These are people who prefer to observe from a distance. They don't want to get into the melee. They want to see what's going on in the room, wherever they are. They want to see what's going on. They want to observe from a distance, and they will either enter in what they see or do what they are going to do at their own pace. You cannot rush or force these people into anything or to do anything. However, they're so mild mannered in their refusal, and they're just generally mild mannered, and they have a dry sense of humor. They're quite witty. So it makes them one of the easiest people to get along with. And it also is the reason why they excel in leadership. They're good at managing other people, although they resist it wholeheartedly. You really have to convince a phlegmatic to take leadership, but when they do, they're quite good at it. So those are the four temperaments, and just giving you some examples of what the people in those temperaments what kind of careers that they would go into and be good at. Obviously, the sky is the limit for each of them. And obviously, there are people who are working in fields that don't quite match their temperament. And it might be the reason that they're not enjoying their job because they have, out of necessity, entered into a field that doesn't really suit them by nature. So let's get into the third area because we talked about how we are body, soul, and spirit. And we've talked about the body with abilities, capability. We've talked about the soul, where we get to know our temperament and how we are wired in our soul. So there's a way that we're wired in our body, there's a way that we're wired in our soul, and there's a way that we're wired in our spirit. Now, whether or not you are aware that you have a spirit, and I don't know the extent to which you entertain that part of yourself, but you do have a spirit. Your spirit is God given, it is how you connect to God. So, to the degree that you have relationship with God, is to the degree that your spirit is operational. However, even if you are not having a relationship with God, He has wired you for it. And He has wired you with different kinds of gifts. One category of gifts are called motivational gifts. And like it sounds, it's what motivates you to motivate others. These gifts are given not because He has a relationship with you, He's wired you that way when He made you. And so you have some of these gifts, there are 7 of them. And that is how you function and flow in coordination with whatever your temperament is and the abilities you have. So we'll wrap it all together here shortly. But the spiritual gifts, like I said, that we're going to talk about are the motivational ones. And there are 7. The first one we'll talk about is the perceiver gift. It's also, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you will also have seen it talked about as a prophetic gift. But that's if you have a relationship with God. At the base of it all, the perceiver gift is that you recognize and declare what is right. You are very clear on what is right and what is wrong. You have no confusion about that at all. You might actually be a little too black and white when it comes to that, but you will say, you will recognize in any situation, in any circumstance, you are the one who recognizes, okay, this is not right. What you just said is not right. What you just did is not right. This situation is not right. They have a boldness to declare what is right and wrong. The exhorter is the encourager. The exhorter is going to encourage you to live the best, believe the best, all the talk about being your best self. The encourager is the one who encourages you in that. The teacher is one who researches and communicates truth, not just facts, but the teacher also likes to research and communicate truth. An administrator, one who has the gift of administration, as it sounds like, they are gifted for leadership. They are gifted for managing others. They are gifted to be able to see something through from the beginning to end. So they have that gifting. Then you have the server, who likes to do things for the benefit of other people. So they are doers. Contrast to givers, who like to give of themselves for someone else. So it could be their time, it could be their energy, it could be whatever they possess, the money they possess, they like to give for the benefit of someone else. And then there is the compassion gift. And that is the person who shows love and care for others who are in need. And we talked about that in the emotional capacity. We touched, we covered that there. Everyone needs to have emotional capacity to show compassion, but there are some people who are gifted. They are who people call the bleeding hearts. They love a wounded bird. Like anybody who is hurt and needing help, these people are drawn to. Obviously, there are certain fields, as I'm saying it, you can imagine that there are nurses who might have that gift. There are doctors who might have that gift. There are therapists who may have that gift. They just have always been drawn to people who have a need, and it is spiritually a part of them. They have a spiritual fulfillment in operating in that way. It's not just a check for them. It gives them a certain amount of joy and a sense that my life has purpose and I'm living it out. And so when you think about these 3 categories, body, soul, and spirit, and the clues that we can find in each category, as you observe your child, as you reflect on your own life, But as you observe your child, you will be able to notice uh, things that I have mentioned in the different categories where they may fall. And as you recognize those clues, they come together as a picture to help you say, huh, I bet, I bet they would love this. And so you can mention it. Have you ever heard of psychology? Have you ever heard of therapists? Because I noticed that you seem to have compassion. I noticed that you love to encourage. I noticed that you seem to be someone who is very observant and sensitive to other people's feelings. Wow, you should look into becoming a therapist. You could have those kind of conversations with your child as they're getting to the age, especially when they are looking at colleges, thinking about career paths, what majors they would have if they're not going to school, what else they would do. If your child loves to build things with their hands, I have a nephew who loves the idea of working on race cars. He loves the mechanics of it. He wants to work with his hands. Great. So he can go in that path, especially if he's someone who's attentive to detail, right? Because we don't need a race car falling apart at 100 or 200 miles an hour going around a track. So somebody who is attentive to detail, it wouldn't be a sanguine doing that because or a choleric because they're not worried about details. The sanguine just wants to talk to people. They don't even want to be in the race car because the race car you're by yourself. They want to do things when they're talking to people. The choleric wants to probably own the race car. He has no interest in driving the race car. He wants to own the race car. He wants to hire you to drive the race car or hire you to work on the race car, but he does not want to drive the race car. So you see what I'm saying? As you see what their natural tendencies are in these different areas of their life, you start to get a picture of what they might be good at. And so you know where to put your resources to develop them in those areas so that they now have a confidence and even a clarity to say, you know what, I'm really good at this, this, and this. I tend to do this and this. So maybe I'd be good at that. And because you've been observing them, you could add your 2 cents as well. Like, I think it's worth looking into because of what I've noticed as well. So I'm going to use my middle child as an example. He, in terms of abilities, he has great fine motor skills. Now, he's also athletic. Basketball was his jam, but he had skill for high school level, and he still enjoys playing now, but he's not at the university level. So now he plays that for recreation. But it was something that I noticed. He and his brother, basketball is their thing, which makes sense because it's my husband's thing. Great fine motor skills. Like I mentioned earlier, he's the one who loves to draw. Okay, so he has a natural talent for drawing, but not detailed drawing. So when he started drawing buildings, and as opposed to drawing faces where you have to have more detail, he's better at drawing buildings. He's better at drawing larger scale than detailed. And he is always one building things. If something it breaks, he wants to be the one to fix it. Those are his abilities. His spiritual gifts are he's a compassionate guy and he is an exhorter. So the compassion goes with the fact that he's also melancholy. His temperament blend is melancholy and choleric. And remember, I said melancholies can be quite sensitive. It can be sensitive in the way of getting offended easily, but also sensitive to I see that person is in need and I feel that and I want to do something about that. So that kind of sensitivity is what a melancholy has. As I said, he's also an exhorter, which goes with the fact that his temperament is also choleric. So remember, I said that cholerics love to rally people. They want people to get excited about what they're excited about so that we can get this done. They have an exhorter element to their temperament. Well, we see that in his spiritual gift. And so it makes sense that he is interested in engineering because he can sketch out a design, right, of something that needs to be created or how something needs to be reworked. But he's not so into getting it done, that he's brash or that he doesn't know how to talk to people. He is sensitive enough as a melancholy to know how to work with others, even though he's quite serious about getting the thing done. And so, walking you through all of that, you can see how they all work together to explain why he's interested in the career he's interested in. He also could have gone into psychology, quite frankly. He considered that at one point, but there's not enough stuff to do with his hands. He has the compassion for people, but he needs to be able to do something with his hands. He also has a natural, back to abilities, he has a natural ability when it comes to math. And so he likes to um, not only just solve a problem, but if the problem has numbers, he likes that as well. And so that tends to suit engineering more than psychology. So I use him as an example to explain how me observing all these things about him as he was growing up put me in the position then when he had here in Texas, in our school district, in eighth grade, you can start taking electives depending on how much math you've already either tested out of or how advanced you are in math. You can now have room in your schedule to add on certain electives. And when he was wondering what he should pick, I was able to say, well, look, they have architecture ones here. And that probably would suit you because you like to draw. You know, you like working with your hands. You're going to make models of things. And because had observed all these things about him, I was then able to speak to what would be a good elective for him to take versus the other ones they had because of his abilities. He doesn't need to do theater. He didn't need to do an advanced art class because his drawings weren't those kind of drawings. They're more macro. They're not micro detail. They're macro. And so, um, and no, I didn't tell him to do it because it's not about telling them what they should do. Okay. So none of this, none of what I'm talking about is figure them out and tell them what they should do. It's observe and note so that you're in a position to come alongside and say, hey, have you ever considered this? Because I notice these attributes about you. And those are the qualities that are often found in the person in ABC career. So you might want to put that on your list of things for you to look into, or maybe you have them meet someone that you know that is, in my son's interest, instance, an engineer. He didn't have to go far. My husband's an engineer. And so he's been surrounded by engineers all his life and was able to talk to them about the different paths, career paths in engineering, and what would best suit him. That's the benefit of being able to recognize and understand that we're all wired a certain way. None of it is right, none of it is wrong. It's just different and it's all good. It takes all sorts to make the world go round. And part of you being a mom is getting to see what the treasures are in the child that you've been given. And part of the clues are in their abilities, in their temperament, and in their spiritual gifts to find out how they all work together to point them in the direction that they should go so that they have maximal fulfillment. And it's by recognizing these clues that they're able to answer the question for themselves, hopefully sooner rather than later. Why am I here? So I would love to know what you think about that in the comments. In particular, what stood out to you most. Temperaments, as you saw how excited I got, is my jam. It's something that I studied when I first met my husband and we got married. It's something that we learned at that time and has been invaluable for me in understanding why I am the way I am and then why the people around me are the way they are, so that I realize that they're not actually trying to get on my nerves. They're just being themselves. They may need to tune it down a little bit, character adjustments here and there, but they are who they are. Who they are is who they're supposed to be. And it's for me to find the beauty in that and for them to find the beauty in how I get down and how I function. So if you'd like me to talk more about temperaments, let me know about that in the comments below. But listen, this has been fun. If this video is resonating with you and you would like to hear some more stories and strategies from me on what it's like for me to work out or work through the family dynamics in my own family, then I invite you to join me for Motherhood Unmasked Moments, my weekly newsletter. It's free for you, and the link to it is available in the description box below. I look forward to seeing you there. Let's get back to the video. And until next time, I want you to remember that when it comes to you being the mother of your children, you are and forever will be the woman for the job. Take care.